Welcome back to another explainer. Today we're taking the Cambridge AS Level Afrikaans speaking test, specifically the Providing and Seeking Information segment, and we're looking at it through a completely new, highly strategic lens. We're treating this like a corporate compliance audit. I want you to think of your spoken answers not as, casual conversations with a teacher, but as formal, high-stakes business proposals pitched directly to a board of elite executives. And in this case, those executives are the Cambridge examiners. Right now, your raw, unfiltered conversational skills, they're an unverified liability. But by the end of this explainer, we are going to transform those vague liabilities into bulletproof A-star assets. We're going to decode the strict structural requirements, master the data analytics, and engineer a response that absolutely maximizes your return on investment on the examiner's marking grid. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our 5-step audit checklist for today's session. First, core principles of assessment. Second, the method mark strategy. Third, systematic data processing. Fourth, evaluative thinking in practice. And finally, top examiner warnings. Right. Moving into Section 1, Core Principles of Assessment. This is where we establish your baseline. Now, this is where we define the theoretical architecture of what top-tier candidates actually do. To secure a top-band valuation, you absolutely must rethink your approach. See, superficial breadth is the amateur approach. It's just listing isolated facts from the prompt without any connective tissue. Imagine a junior consultant, let's call him Alex, who just dumps a spreadsheet of raw, unanalyzed data on my desk. In the corporate world, that's a liability. It provides zero actual value. Contrast this with analytical depth, which is your A-star asset. The assessment framework explicitly prioritizes candidates who build clear causal relationships and offer precise definitions. For instance, if the stimulus is about technology in schools, don't just list 3 devices you read about. No way. You must reference cross-topic connections, verbally link the immediate text to broader syllabus themes, perhaps connecting the use of tablets to socioeconomic disparities in rural South Africa. Principal examiner reports continually highlight that this specific depth is what secures significantly higher marks. You are building a logical, structured reasoning benchmark, not just having a chat over coffee.
Moving to Section 2, the method mark strategy. The process is the profit.
So, the crucial point here, and this is a real game changer, is the underlying methodology. Examiners don't just care about your final answer. They care immensely about how you got there. We call this the method mark strategy. Marks are systematically awarded for your analytical process and your clear working. If you jump straight to the conclusion, you are literally leaving money on the table. But you might be wondering, how do you show clear working in a spoken exam where you can't write it down? Well, you do it by verbally walking the examiner through your logical steps out loud. Instead of just blurting out a stance, you use transition words to map your thought process. You have to make your internal reasoning external and explicit. Running a systematic workflow like the one on screen acts as your bulletproof structural architecture. Let's walk through it. First, identify key elements. What exactly is the stimulus material telling you? Second, apply principles. You aren't just summarizing here, you are actively bringing in specific Afrikaans grammatical frameworks or syllabus themes to process the text. Third, execute analysis. Verbally map out the why and how out loud. Fourth, verify results. Does your conclusion actually make sense given the specific context? And fifth, present format. Deliver it with absolute clarity. Running every single response through this exact sequence eliminates panic and replaces it with a highly profitable, repeatable algorithm. Let's move to Section 3, systematic data processing, extracting high-value assets. During your preparation time, you're handed texts or tables. How you process this data entirely determines your grade. Step 1 is extraction, finding the raw facts. But remember what we said about our junior associate Alex? Extracting raw facts is just taking inventory. It's a massive liability if you stop there, because anyone can simply read a text back to the examiner. Step 2 is interpretation. You must interpret the relationships between those facts. You have to explicitly state to the examiner why point A causes point B, rather than just hoping they connect the dots for you. Step 3 is drawing evidence-based conclusions. Pitch a final thought entirely anchored in the data provided. If your conclusion isn't backed by the hard evidence in the text, your proposal is automatically rejected. Let's move to and see how this builds into your actual delivery. You might think presentation conventions only apply to written exams, but actually, they are strictly enforced compliance standards in the speaking test too. In a verbal test, proper formatting means using clear structural signposting, using terms like eerstens, tweedens, and tenslate to tell the examiner exactly where your argument is going. Correct terminology means maintaining a professional academic register in Afrikaans. We are completely dropping the slang. Clear annotation means verbally emphasizing the most critical parts of the text with your tone of voice. Practical application develops professional skills, and examiners are auditing your ability to present information with executive-level clarity. All right, Section 4. Evaluative thinking in practice. Before we see if your response can secure a top band valuation, we need to ensure your personal academic assets are properly managed. Subscribe to Ace the Exams at Ace the Exams right now and turn on all notifications. No matter if your focus is Cambridge IGCSE, O-Levels, AS, or A-Levels, this channel is your weekly board seat to secure elite grades. Okay, back to the audit. Evaluative thinking is the true differentiator between average candidates and top-scoring candidates. This brilliantly illustrates the core problem-solving algorithm, the deconstruct, solve, evaluate loop. When asked a complex question, don't just start talking like another junior associate, let's call her Sam, who pitches brilliant, creative concepts but completely lacks hard asset backing. First, deconstruct. Identify the given information and break it down. Second, solve. Execute your answer systematically. Third, and most importantly, evaluate. What does checking reasonableness look like? Imagine you propose a solution to youth unemployment based on a text, but mid-sentence you realize the text only discusses urban youth, not rural. A top-tier candidate will catch that flaw in their own logic, live, explicitly state the limitation to the examiner, and adjust their conclusion on the fly. That self-correction scores massive evaluative marks. To truly show evaluative thinking, you have to prove the quality of your evidence. Actively question assumptions. Does the text assume something that might not be true in all cases? Consider alternative interpretations. Could the data be viewed from a completely different perspective? Identify the limitations of the information you've been given. When you acknowledge these complexities and still justify your final decision with strong evidence, you are demonstrating elite, corporate-level analytical reasoning. You're showing the examiner that you don't just accept information blindly, you audit it. Finally, Section 5, Top Examiner Warnings, the Liability Penalty Box. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it shows the single fastest way to crash your valuation on the marking grid. It's the classic mistake of providing generic answers, not specific to the question context. If you memorize a beautiful, perfectly grammatical paragraph about environmental issues, but the prompt is specifically about a local town's water supply, and you fail to explicitly link your answer to that specific town, your proposal's value drops to 0. Context is absolutely everything. If you disconnect from the given scenario, you fail the audit. Let's rapid-fire the top 3 structural liabilities you must avoid, straight from the principal examiner reports. Number 1, vagueness. Your answers lack specific details. Examiners hate fluff. They want hard assets and precise data points from the text. Number 2, failure to check format and presentation. You ramble, you lose your structure, and you fail to verbally signpost your points. Number 3, contextual disconnect. You pitch a brilliant idea that has absolutely nothing to do with the actual scenario on the table. These are immediate valuation drops, and the examiner will penalize you heavily for them. To ensure you never commit these errors, I want you to install this quick memory hack acronym into your preparation routine right now. SPC. Specific details, presentation format, contextual links. Before you execute your final answer, run a mental SPC scan. Am I giving specifics? Is my verbal presentation clearly structured? Am I explicitly linked to the context? If the answer to any of those is no, you are pitching an unverified liability. Recalibrate and try again. Apply this C-suite approach to your next practice session and watch your valuation soar to that A-star tier. But look closely at your current preparation. Are your spoken academic assets strictly and properly managed, or are you still blindly pitching unverified liabilities, hoping the examiners will just hand over marks for a casual chat? Think about it. Now it's time to secure the deal. Subscribe to Ace the Exams at AC Exams, enable that notification bell for our weekly board sessions, and drop a comment below stating your target grade, qualification tier, and subject. Let's get to work.